Roman Reigns has been put on notice, and Solo Sokoa puts his stamp on his version and his vision of the bloodline. It is Saturday. It is drink o'clock, so you know what time it is. It's time for the SmackDown Penitentiary, y'all. Let's get into it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome to the SmackDown Review Show, aka the SmackDown Penitentiary. I am one of your hosts, the Dice Man, aka the Z is Silent, and I am joined by my co-host Vic. How you doing, brother? It is hot as hell out here in these streets. It is too damn hot
It is
on the East Coast of America.
It sure is. It is a scorcher today. Too hot out
It
there.
is too damn hot to be breathing right now.
Facts.
Listen, I ran outside to get something from my truck, and I said, "Yeah, no, I am good. Like, I don't want no parts of this heat right now." But as we were here talking some SmackDown, I want to get your thoughts on the week that was pro wrestling, because we had a lot of stuff that happened in pro wrestling. And specifically, the hottest talk of pro wrestling was the, in my opinion, because there's been some other stuff, including the WrestleMania behind the curtain documentary, how people are saying that The Rock was a hypocrite or whatever. You can't say if somebody does or does not have their pulse, their finger on the pulse of the fans. And I believe that The Rock is one of those people that does. Triple H as well. While The Rock did want to go into WrestleMania, right? But the fans swerved that, sort of like the Daniel Bryan yes movement, right? Triple H could have easily said, "This is a done deal," like Roman said, "This is a done deal. The WrestleMania main event is Randy Orton versus Batista for the title," and it could have easily been that, right? And Triple H swerved, and he kept his finger on the pulse of the fans. And I felt like Rock did the same thing. However, Rock is getting run down on social media, and they're comparing him to Hulk Hogan, how Hulk Hogan is saying these lies of he discovered this person, that person, this happened, that happened, when it really didn't happen. And at this point, you just got to think that something is wrong with Hulk Hogan, with his health, as far as things go. But I don't think anything is wrong with Rock. But I do believe that Rock did have his finger on the pulse of the fans. What is your thoughts about that? And did you see the Britt Baker Mercedes Moné showdown on Dynamite?
Yes, I did, and I thought it was quite interesting because, well, just speaking about Mercedes Moné first. She came to New York and got booed off the stage.
Mm-hmm.
She got booed off the stage because Long Island is full of smart locks. So she's getting booed off the stage because people are looking at her like a baseball player that got overly paid. And it's not necessarily it's not necessarily doing much, right? Because her run as a babyface has been a little lackluster, even though they're putting on the belts on her and this and that. So this direction that they're going with her, especially number one, is a great way to bring Britt Baker back as a face and make her into a great heel. Like this is perfect for Sasha Banks. She could have a little like Hollywood Hogan run. Everybody sitting there comparing her to Hogan and all of that.
Do you agree with the comparisons?
No, is the thing about it is just that she has
but her bragging about having creative control, does that not bother you? It bothers me because
the thing is that I mean, look, you're playing a character for so long. You should have you should have say as to how that character is being portrayed, especially if you're somebody that has been around for a long time and you're carrying this thing for life. You know what I mean? Hacksaw Jim Duggan still shows up with 2x4s at the meet and greet. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like you should definitely have creative control, especially if you're the one, number one, putting your body on the line, right? Because the other thing that happens at the meet and greets is that you see people like Buff Bagwell walking around with crutches. You feel me? You see people like Lex Luthor in a wheelchair. So, long term, yeah. And the thing is just that a lot of bookers are just thinking about the pop. They're not thinking about, you know what I mean? They're not thinking about the long term of the character. So for her to have creative control at this point, I don't see anything wrong with that. But personally, I like her.
I agree with you on that because, and shout out to the unofficial camera woman, aka Sabrina Estella, one of the hosts here on UPR's NXT review show. I think that's what they did at Dynamite. It was the turn. It was the official double turn, right? Britt Baker is primarily been known to be a heel in her AEW run. While we live in an era where fans love heels, she has absolutely turned to a purebred face, and Mercedes has turned to a heel. I thought that's what they did on Dynamite, and I have to disagree with you because it's the fact of what she's doing in the media runs that is the reason why I have to disagree with you, because she's taken on this, and at this point I don't even think it's a persona, right? Like I don't think that it's a persona at all when we're talking about the attitude of Mercedes Moné, right? Like it's literally like when you know somebody is lying, like, and they know that they're lying, but they've been lying so long that they believe their lie. And in my heart of hearts,
Bobby the Brain Heenan, Jerry Lawler,
like in my heart of hearts, in my heart of hearts, I do not think that Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, however you want to call it, I do not think that she is better than Charlotte Flair, right? But Charlotte has always been portrayed as a big fucking deal. Her whole WWE, she's always been portrayed as a big deal, whereas Mercedes is trying to convince you that she's a big deal, and this is why I have to disagree with your take on it, because I feel like her negotiation, she needed to grab creative control, because if she didn't get creative control to fuel her narrative of being this best women's wrestler in the world, how else are you going to stop the chatter of Charlotte Flair being the greatest? Now, some people have other people as, the greatest. Charlotte is up there. Asuka's up there. I'm personally putting Bayley above Sasha. If we're talking prowess, I'm putting Natty up there. If we're just talking in ring, in the four sides of the ring, I'm putting Natty above Sasha. But we're talking overall, I would put Sasha over Natty, because Natty's never really had a really good character run. But I do think that her bragging about having creative control in links with Tony Khan does hurt her credibility of being the best women's wrestler in the world. And this is where the Britt Baker homegrown, so to speak, AEW talent as opposed to an immigrant talent in Mercedes Moné. This is where they clash. We've seen it with Tony Storm. We've seen it with Saraya. Um, and the only one that has really been able to grasp the AEW style of wrestling has been Tony Storm. It hasn't been Saraya. And this is, if anybody in the chat, if you know, this is the same route that they're taking Mercedes Moné versus Britt Baker is the same route that they took Saraya versus Britt Baker. And for Mercedes, I don't like it for her. I don't like it for her. If you're talking, this is who you're paying millions of dollars to get. But overall, what did you think about the week in pro wrestling before we get into the actual SmackDown review?
I mean, it's a straight battle from Forbidden Door to everything that's happening this weekend. Like they literally were just going against each other, and I think it started at the SmackDown in Madison Square Garden, right?
Mhm.
Because then AEW went to go have Forbidden Door in Long Island. They really like fighting over New York. I see that. Like they definitely like to, you know what I mean? Like
Cody Rhodes kind of let the. I was watching an interview of Cody Rhodes on the Pivot with Ryan Clark and those guys, and it was really good, really good interview. It's about an hour long. If you guys have some time to watch it, it's a really good interview. And Cody kind of peeled the curtain back on the Madison Square Garden ticket prices, and he slipped up and said they were around like $360. I don't even know if that's just like the minimum. If $360 is the minimum for an MSG price, that is crazy. That is crazy work. But
that's like that's like a good seed and stuff like that, but that's not the minimum.
No. Okay. From being from New York,
and then
so from being from New York, what do you see as like the average starting price for an MSG show? What have you seen?
Things even as low as $30, but you're not sitting in a seat. You all the way up, and you on a booth or something, right? But then there's $1,300 seats, but then it also depends on whether it's a house show, it's a SmackDown, it's a this, or that. It all depends on what it is. But now the thing is, I expect these prices to be higher than ever. Why? Because look, they're barely doing house shows, right? They're definitely the only house show they're going to do down here in New York is going to be that December 26th show that they always do. And this was a SmackDown. So clearly the numbers are going to be higher. And the thing about MSG is just that, like, there's so many people here, they're always going to sell out. You know what I mean? Regardless of, it's not a small town. You feel what I'm saying? Like, it's not like going to Rochester. It's not like going to Rochester. So, that with all those logistics in mind, $350 is probably mid-range. Definitely not nosebleeds. I'll give you that much. No, that's way too high for nosebleeds. I wouldn't be surprised. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's people paying $100 for nosebleeds now, especially because it was a SmackDown. You know what I mean? But then, at the same time, they also have to take into consideration that there's Barclays, there's UBS Arena, there's Prudential Center. Like, there's a lot of options. You know what I mean? So, and New York fans are spoiled. So if it's for the fan base, then, people are going to pay high, especially if it's like an important show. But if it's just like a regular thing, not so much. But like I said before, they'll always fill it up. They'll always fill it up no matter what. You know what I mean? They never have a problem doing that shit. So.
Right. A shout out to the unofficial Cannon Rowan again, before we get into SmackDown, saying that she believes her creative control is good for Mercedes, and this is are upset about it. For me, I'm gonna say, because fans are so Mike Knox, you do your show. This is how we do our show. We talking about what we thought about the weekend pro wrestling. You do your show. We do our show. For me personally, as a fan, I'm going to say that I don't like it because fans today, we're too smart. We're too smart, and we're also too stupid. right? Like we're smart enough to look at things in a sense of we know that it's not real, but we want to know the effort and what it takes for you to make us not believe the unbelievability of it, if that makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they go out of their way to put on a good enough show to make you forget that this is staged, right? But fans are also stupid in the sense of believing that this is going to be a positive thing because to my knowledge in the last 25 years maybe, and I'm only 37, 36, 37. To my knowledge in the past 25 years, the only two people that we probably know of that have had creative control have been Hogan and Triple H during his McMahon Helmsley era, maybe Evolution era, right? Maybe. Other than that, I think that's where the creative control probably stopped. Maybe
But wait a minute. What does creative control mean? Because
that means
I
they
feel
get
like everybody
they
has
get
creative
the
control in AEW.
No, it's not really because they get to say if they're going to drop a belt, they get to say how they're going to put somebody over. They get to say how the finish of the match goes. I don't think that I don't think it's a sense of we're giving input and seeing how you feel about it. I think it's more so the writers tell them and they're like, no, that's not how I'm doing things.
Well,
I
yeah, I mean,
believe
several people
in
have
my
done
heart
that.
of
I believe
hearts that
Cena
Triple H
has done
had
that.
that power. I think that
I
Triple
believe
H
Cena
had
had
that
that power. I believe Cena had that power. You know what I mean?
Mike Knox
Especially
says
Cena
Triple
of
H
all
is
people.
never. I have to disagree. I think that Triple H has. Like if you look at that run of terror that he had from 2000, when the WCW buyout happened, right, and from that merger from 2002 to maybe 2005, before they started making stars out of Batista and Orton, and Cena. Like it, I think that I think that he definitely did because some of the and even in the sense of one of the biggest mishaps of the ruthless aggression era or that weird time period of that era, one of the biggest mishaps that fans still do not agree with, and it's been they said it on the Who Killed WCW documentary, is Triple H going over on Booker T at Mania. I mean, Booker T is probably arguably the greatest superstar that came from WCW and adapted to WWE's uh, way of doing things. You could probably argue Chris Jericho, but off the top of my mind, I'm going to go with Booker T. But Jericho's had a long. Booker Jericho came before Booker T, and he's had a longer WWE run than Booker T. I think Booker T stopped in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. Anybody in the chat, you can double check me on that. But I think that he stopped in 2012. But back to my point of in that sense of creative control, I believe that Triple H, at that point in time, couldn't see the business of putting somebody else over and the need to put somebody else over. But I think that Triple H and that mindset is gone. But this new Triple H, I feel like he does have a pulse. He does have a finger on the pulse of the fans and what they need and what they want. And I think that I was shown with the Daniel Bryan thing. But I do believe that um, it might you could be true. These are one of these things that we don't know. We just speculate, right? But it's a good conversation to have, right? I think it's a healthy conversation to have, like a what if conversations are always great. But creative control, I still believe in my heart of hearts that Triple H had at least 60% of creative control. Of course, Vince had the ultimate say so, right? He always has the ultimate say so. But I believe that Triple H's input probably swerved it more than Vince's recognition for it. That was my point.
I mean, I would say that MJF has creative control.
I think that he does.
You know what I mean?
I think
Like
that
if
MJF
anybody has
has creative control. That's why I say, like, because these guys can shoot their own promos. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they can do. I would even say that John Moxley has creative control. You know,
Oh, for sure.
He goes and gets the New Japan Pro Wrestling, but then at the same time, look, he just dropped the belt. So, but he also knows how to do business. So I think that by saying that she has creative control is just saying that, like, she's just gonna go into business for herself and not let anybody else shine. And I don't see that in Sasha Banks. You know what I mean? I mean Mercedes Moné. I think that
what
knows,
you don't see it.
No, I don't see that in her. I don't see her being that selfish. Look what she did with Bianca Belair.
Yeah, but that was inevitable.
By the end of that, she was smiling at the end of that shit.
When it's all said and done, in your honest opinion, whose career do you think is going to be greater, Sasha or Bianca? I'm going with Bianca.
I mean, that's hard to tell because Bianca's so young, man. Like, Bianca's got, and Sasha's still young too. They both got a lot of time.
Career wise, yes, Bianca is still very young. However, her trajectory of the way that she's been able to accomplish things has been far greater than Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, whatever. And my sense of it is the way that Mercedes is going about, this half of her career, I don't agree with it. Because again, I think that she's trying to portray herself. She's trying to play greatest women's wrestler of all time, right? When you have to state that you are that, you're probably not that, right? Like, we've all been to parties or bars or clubs where if it's the loudest one talking, he's probably not that guy, right? The loudest one talking probably ain't got the big bag. He probably ain't got the heater on him.
That's true.
Ain't the one that can fight the best, right?
That's true.
And I feel like Sasha is like, Charlotte has been portrayed as a big deal for so long.
Yeah, but that's because she's a Flair.
But still, she's got it though. Like, there's no mistaking, she's got it. Asuka has even been portrayed as a big fucking deal, bigger than Mercedes Moné, right? Mm-hmm. And Mercedes has to try to convince you to have the thought or the conversation that, maybe she is the greatest of all time. She's not, though. She's not. In the sense of, and Mike will echo these sentiments to you on the Mike Knox Show every Monday at 6 p.m. that Charlotte Flair is the greatest women's wrestler of all time. You could put in Asuka. I'm going to throw Natty in there. If we're just talking about wrestling, I'm going to throw Natty in there. But if we're talking about totality of the persona, the character, then I have to pull her out. But if we're talking about in that ring, I'm going to throw Natty in there. I personally think that Bayley is a better wrestler than the.
But all you're doing is putting things in the categories, man.
No, and that's, you know what?
That's all you're doing. You're just putting things in the categories.
No, you're right.
If it's just this, then this is the person. But if it's just that, then that's the person. Like, you know what I mean? But
I said that because I wanted to segue into the conversation that Cody Rhodes had on the Pivot when they asked him who would be your Mount Rushmore of greatest wrestlers, right? And he said that, you know, having these type of conversations about who the GOAT is or who the best is, it's a hard conversation because there's always a stipulation, a criteria of why you wouldn't have somebody in there. But for the general purposes of fandom, right? So like if they were doing a shoot on WWE and, you know, ESPN, CBS, MTV, like, it doesn't matter, national television, if they were doing some sort of piece on the greatest women's wrestlers, Natty probably would not be in that. She wouldn't be on the screen. They'd be Trish Stratus and Lita and Charlotte and Bianca and Becky and Bailey and Sasha. It'd be all those women, right? And then
Mickey James.
you would have those fans like myself who are saying, are we talking about the sports entertainer, or are we actually talking about the wrestler? Right? Because a lot of people will say Daniel Bryan is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, right? One of the greatest technical wrestlers. He's a technical genius in the ring. Yeah, he is. He is. But he has character, and he has some sort of onion to peel back in who he is. You know who else is a great fucking technical wrestler?
But then here's the thing. If you use those categories, you can say that Paul Heyman is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. You know what I'm saying? Because he has his character work is better than anybody. You know what I'm saying? Like till this day. You feel me? And mind you, and he was a booker, and he, you know what I mean? And look, Paul Heyman is the Pat Riley of WWE. He brought more people to the promised land than anybody else. Like, come on now. You know what I mean? But
absolutely.
That's if you're
I agree with that.
But he's not in the ring. You know what I mean? Cutting a promo is part of it. But like, look, Drew McIntyre has an enormous amount of impact and stuff like that, but he just now started getting good at promos after all these years. You know what I mean? But then The Miz, it would never look good, never looked great in the ring, but it's got some of the best freaking promos ever. You know what I'm saying? And he's safe. And he's safe in the ring. But then Daniel Bryan says, like, yo, you soft. You wrestled the safe way. But then look, how many times has The Miz been injured? In like 20 years. You know what I mean? Like, you know, one of the reasons why Bret Hart was the best was and ever will be is because never injured anybody. Barely ever got injured. You know what I mean? At a huge run. So like, you know, it really all depends on your whole body of work and when your time is, because that's also a matter of perspective. Like, you know, the kids are not, nobody's sitting there talking about Bruno Sammartino unless they're over 50. You feel me? Like, you know, it's all a matter of perspective. And now here's another one. Like, speaking about Jey Uso, who knows the direction that he's gonna go, but his singles direction is going very well. You know what I mean?
Very well.
Like, you know, a couple years from now, he might be totally different. You know what I'm saying? Austin Theory is one that, in my opinion, is probably the next John Cena. He's probably gonna go hard for a long, long time. You know what I mean? And the reason I mention that is because
go ahead.
No, the reason I mention all those people is just to show like how fast things are now compared to then. You know what I mean? Bruno Sammartino was champion for 10 years because it was once a month in Madison Square Garden. Now these guys are doing
but that was because pro wrestling was rarely accessible as it is today.
Exactly, and pro wrestling is even more accessible to the fact where they're pulling back. No, but here's the thing: kayfabe is dead. They're showing you the behind the scenes produce of the show. They're showing you everything. There's more.
If you're gonna give me what what wrestlers are feeling or thinking before a Mania, a SummerSlam, a Royal Rumble, I used to love watching when WWE Network was just the network and not on Peacock, because they got rid of a lot of documentaries, a lot of shows. When they used to have WWE 24.
AEW. But no, blame AEW because being the elite is popular. It's something,
but it's just I will say it was
revenue generator. No, but
it's
doesn't
not
matter,
as popular as it was. It does because it's not the same. It's not the same. They're not the same elite.
They're already monetized. Because as long as they're already monetized, they're making money off of just making a video and doing nothing else.
Yeah, but they can't.
That's
their monetization. I guarantee you, if you were to Google it, if you were to YouTube it right now, and Google being the elite followers or whatever on YouTube, opposed to I guarantee you they couldn't even fuck with Up Down Down by Xavier Woods, and he created that.
Of course not. But it doesn't. But that's the thing. They don't got to fuck with anybody.
Even before that, they probably couldn't fuck with it. Even before that, because
my point is the business model. The business model that's there now compared to before. It's not just selling shirts. Now They're literally just selling as they're selling promos. They cut all of these little things into segments of the show, and put advertisements on them in order to sell more and sell more and sell more. And you know, when it comes to doing all of these extra different shows, and look at Speed, look at all these different things, it's just putting advertisements on as many things as possible. So now the whole business model is totally different from what it was before, because now you're not only getting television exposure, and mind you, look, after Netflix, now that Netflix has bought this, right, and it's not necessarily just a television station anymore. A lot of things are going to change, bro. Like, and I'm sad to see the end of the USA Network with them. But yo, that's
Well,
the
for Monday Night Raw it ends, but SmackDown will be picking it up.
No, but what I'm saying is that look, 10 years from now, we're gonna literally have to use an app in order to watch wrestling. That's the reality. It's starting with Peacock, and then eventually, if Netflix just takes over the whole thing, or if Disney buys them out or whatever, we're gonna have to go on an app in order to watch wrestling. That's where we're going. And because of that, yeah.
Thank
and
you
because
for
of that,
these stats. Thank you.
yeah.
Up, down has
Because of that,
2.43 million. Being Elite has 509K. So yeah, I don't think that WWE got rid of the network and put it, dumbed it down for Peacock because of something like Being the Elite. I just think that it's addition by subtraction, right? Like it's the reason why we don't get Pyro to start Monday Night Raw or Friday Night SmackDown, right? It's sometimes you just don't need it. Like less is more, right? The less that you see Pyro, the more that it seems like a big deal, and only people that are presented as a big deal get Pyro, right? And
I agree.
Only things that are presented, to our eyes as big deal. I think the last WWE 24 that they put on Peacock was Edge's return at the Royal Rumble. But for me personally, I like to see those peel back curtain things where after it's happened, I can see like what were they thinking? Like how was everybody else's reaction? And it's one of those things that make you fall in love with. It's another way for you to fall in love with these personas that are on TV. And I think that WWE getting away from that it's a miss, in my opinion. It's a miss, right? Like just think of what you could do, since we're talking about Jay and we're going to be talking about Jay and LA Knight. What would it mean to have those guys for WWE 24 and have Jay talking about his popularity surge, right? And have LA Knight talk about his move from being Max Dupree to now shifting to who he really was in LA Knight. Like I think that would get a lot of fans behind these wrestlers today. But segueing into SmackDown's night, because we talked a lot about the week in pro wrestling and just opinions, and this is what we do here on the SmackDown Penitentiary. Hope you guys are liking the brand new background overlay created by your boy. I got tired of what we had because that was not SmackDown Live. We are SmackDown, but I just wanted to put our touch on it because you are in the SmackDown Penitentiary. We just want to flare it up a little bit. But starting SmackDown off, Jey Uso comes out, crazy pop. I think the fans are kind of like, yeah, we're going to chill on these fireflies for you because we don't want shit to happen. Because he did not have a lot of cell phone lights in the crowd. He did not. But he had everybody doing the up down. He had everybody doing the up down, but he didn't have a lot of fireflies with the cell phone lights. Basically,
I think after that message, they stopped that shit for him because he was like, you know what, I want no smoke. Hey, I can have that
exactly. Yeah. He didn't want any. He didn't want any smoke.
You know what though? But that goes to show you the power of today, and you know how a post on social media can affect the show.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, look, like the bomb. He did it.
Gee,
He
we
said
did. I
that,
did
and now
not see
it's
the kickoff show for Money in the Bank.
oh
Sorry,
yeah,
I did not see the
that was
kickoff show for Money in the Bank. However, you can catch Mike Knox, Freckle Sensei, and I believe executive consultant are going to be doing their predictions around 4:30 for Money in the Bank. So make sure you guys set your subscribe button, tune into that. But I just wanted to go ahead and get that out so we can make sure that we get enough eyes on that just before Money in the Bank later on at 7 p.m. I'm pretty sure that's the whatever they do pre-panel. It's probably starting at 8. But I don't think it's at 7. But I believe that they're going to have a all white. Okay, all white. All
yeah.
right.
I'm curious as to what that's about. Like they want to white out the whole audience. Like
Thank you,
you know,
Estella.
I'm number one. I'm curious to see how many people like you know actually take place in this, and number two, I think you're shooting yourself in the foot because most of your merch is in black.
Mhm.
So, you know, how many shirts are you planning to sell? Like, you know what I mean? If you're telling everybody to do the opposite of what your shirts look like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Unless you literally print a whole bunch of shirts in white. I mean, but who knows? Because they
I do
also
like
talk
Jay
about
Uso's new shirt. His new shirt in white is pretty fire. It's clean as
no,
shit. I like it.
it is, and mind you, he's got some of the best selling merch that's out there. But my point is just that like you know the majority of the shirts are usually a black screen printed shirt with
Mhm.
something in the middle. You know, everybody look. This Daniel Bryan shirt was different. Mind you, I think
You know
he
what?
had creative control.
Drew McIntyre's new shirt is white as well.
It is.
Yeah. It's white.
I didn't
I'm
notice.
pretty sure it's white. It says DM
I
Hunk.
didn't.
Yeah, that's
I didn't notice.
yeah.
CM Punk's shirt is white. Oh wow, that's crazy. Look at
that
that.
that
Okay.
CM Punk white shirt is one of the cleanest shirts that I've ever been a fan of. Also the one that The Rock had, the boots to asses, and then CM Punk took that and put his logo on the front, and on the back he put knees to faces on it. I thought
Yeah.
that was one of the cleanest shirts as well. So one of those sense of it's you don't need to put so much on a shirt to make it sell. Like boots to asses sold out a lot of shirts. There was a lot of boots to asses shirts, and then when Punk spun it around and put knees to faces, there was a lot of those in the crowd. So white doesn't necessarily shy. It doesn't. It's a pop, right? Like it's a pop. Like me, I like colorful colors. Like I'm wearing teal and navy blue right now, and it just pops. Me as a dark person, it pops. So sometimes white can get the job done because it's just you're right. Most of their shirts are black, red, mostly black and red, if I'm not mistaken. Like, right, look at LA Knight right now. His shirt is red. Most of their shirts are black or red.
I mean, one thing I've always noticed is that they try real hard to recreate the popularity of Austin 316.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think
Is
there's
it
ever
played
been a
out to
shirt
you?
more popular. Huh?
Is it played
Is
out
it
to
what?
you? Is it
What
played
the
out?
black with the thing? No, look what happened with the man shirt. You know what I mean? Because it was the same. It was the same simplicity, but just a simple message. But that shirt popped like crazy. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
They had a whole bunch of them. So it really all depends on the message that's on the shirt. Like my favorite shirt was a John Cena shirt that was Rise Above Hate.
Yeah, I
Right.
love Rise Above Hate.
Yeah, that's my favorite John Cena shirt. Right.
That
Because mind you, like
is also a great top 5 topic. Greatest merch ever.
facts.
That is
a good topic.
a
I mean, no,
hard
you know
topic.
what though? It's a hard topic to have because nowadays not everybody notices all of the merch. You know what I mean? Like some people notice. Some people are on the website every day, and then there's people that just notice the merch at the events. You know what I mean? So like, and then there's auctions and there's all kinds of shit. But but yeah, like but like that is definitely a good topic. But you know what? They're like, we've been on here for 40 minutes and barely talked
We
about the
we
show.
have
Let's
ain't
talk
even
about
got
the
the first
show.
segment. Let's get into this shit because I had a long night. So let's get into this shit. Jay Uso comes out, starts off SmackDown. They're in Toronto, they're in Toronto and starting the show off. Who better to start a show off in Toronto than Jay Uso? Comes out, tells you he's going to be money yeet in the bank. And LA, he's interrupted by LA Knight, and they go through this, braggadocious thing of what we do on the go home show when it's a multi wrestler match. But they had a segment, they had a portion of their segment of Yeet versus Yo, which I thought was pretty dope. Right? It was entertaining. And we can see Jay Uso's entertaining side. And one of the best things that we've always said about Jay Uso is his ability to show what he's feeling. However, one of his biggest critiques is to show what he's feeling, right? Like if there's a segment and somebody says something funny, he can't keep a straight face. Like you can go to YouTube right now and you can see how many times Jay Uso breaks character because he's laughing at something. But I will say that when he is serious, he does not break. He does not break when he is serious. And I froze that on this sense right here because the camera caught a really good angle of him. And I believe that he believes that he is Mr. Money Yeet in the bank. And judging by the rest of the competitors, it's really hard. I think this is one of the most difficult times to pinpoint a clear-cut winner of who deserves Money in the Bank. Right? Like who in your, like, what did you think about that segment? Because we got everybody that came out there and McIntyre kind of ran down everybody, right? I actually love Andrade chilling on some Shawn Michaels shit, laying on the ropes on the turnbuckle. I love that shit. I would wish that more people do that.
Yeah, he's been doing that for a while too.
Yeah, but we got the stereotypical multi-man, everybody got a microphone in their hand type thing. Drew runs down all of his opponents, and then we get an all-out brawl. Again, I've said this for 2 months now at this point. SmackDown starting off with chaos has been absolutely fire. Your thoughts on the opening segment and the way that SmackDown has started off in the past 2 months?
Well, one thing I thought was interesting was how LA Knight got cut off by Carmelo Hayes, and then Carmelo Hayes didn't even get to finish his promo. Right? So so like I wonder what would happen. I think that if Carmelo Hayes were to win it, he's the person that it would help the most. Now the other thing is that I was also thinking Chad Gable, but then Chad Gable is in the middle of a story, right? So I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of shenanigans in this Money in the Bank and Money in the Bank match. I think that CM Punk is definitely going to be involved somehow. And I also think that the Wyatt Six are going to be involved somehow. So I wouldn't be surprised if somebody like Carmelo Hayes or Andrade were to actually win this thing. Because the person who needs it more than anybody is Andrade. Because he's the person that that definitely needs some shine. Everybody else has shine. especially Drew McIntyre. Like Drew McIntyre has a very compelling story right now, and so does Chad Gable, and you know, just about everybody else. And mind you, like LA Knight, it can be put anywhere, But then at the same time, it would be perfect to see LA Knight. LA Knight needs a strap. This is the best way for him to get it. But the
He
reason
needs
I
a
say
strap,
that,
but it's not gonna be for the universal or world heavyweight. He's gonna get that.
Mhm.
He's got probably the most obvious run to SummerSlam.
I mean, I think he
Um,
should just go after the U.S. title and get it. I hope that he
yeah,
does.
I think that
You know what
Logan
I
will cost him. I think Logan will cost him because we didn't see
mean?
Logan Paul last night.
Yeah.
Um, there was no mention of Logan Paul last night, and I think that's genius by WWE to make you kind of forget about Logan Paul, and then he'll
Yeah,
probably show
especially
up
if you're
tonight.
trying to sell Prime.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
they
that he'll
mentioned.
he'll probably show up tonight and cost LA
Um,
his chance. Like he'll at least distract LA or cost him enough so he's not a factor in the match.
mm,
CM Punk probably the same thing. Gable probably the same thing. However, what if the Wyatt Six don't distract Gable, but help Gable? I know
oh,
that
and
it's
that's different.
very far fetched, but they're going with mad swerves with this Wyatt Six. So it's not impossible that it could happen. I just think that it's a
Because I mean,
thing.
because
But
look,
for me,
I,
I'm going with Jey Uso. I'm going with Jey Uso through and through to win Money in the Bank. I'm yeeting all over myself. Pause.
mm. Now, I got a feeling the same thing's gonna happen to Jey Uso, and I got a feeling that Jey Uso is gonna fight over beads first. You know what I mean? I
Mm.
think that Jey Uso is probably gonna end up fighting solo before Roman does for the beads. Even though they're on different, like spaces, but I got a feeling that they're gonna they're gonna bring Jey Uso back in somehow into the fold. You know what I mean? Because you notice how there really is no static between Jey Uso and the Bloodline. You know what I mean? It's
No,
like there's
not since they had that backstage thing where Paul Heyman looked at him like, "Help me."
Exactly. So I got
Yeah.
a feeling that that's where the direction that they're gonna go with Jey Uso. I don't think they're gonna have him chase for a title at least right now, unless it's a mid card title. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But I don't think they're definitely gonna have him chase for the big one right now, and it really isn't necessary. And sometimes just because somebody's getting a big pop for a while
I love this
doesn't
idea.
necessarily mean that they Jimmy should get involved in the 6-man tag. But I doesn't necessarily mean that they have to have the strap. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
we'll see. We'll definitely see what happens. But like I said before, I would not be surprised if number one, if they would just give it to Drew McIntyre and he does exactly what he says. Because the other thing is that Damian needs to win the match in order to solidify himself as a real champion, right? But I don't think they're gonna give it to him for that long. So I wouldn't be surprised if Drew McIntyre does exactly what he says. However, if they don't go that route, I wouldn't be surprised if they gave it to Carmelo Hayes or Andrade because they need it. And maybe last with the strap for like a couple of months and try to cash in and fail. But because the Money in the Bank contract is like another title,
Yeah.
they could give him an Austin Theory run. You know what I'm saying? That helped Austin Theory a lot, especially with his name recognition. So, we'll see. We'll see. But Money in the Bank is one of the best because it's like the Royal Rumble. It's pretty unpredictable.
It is very unpredictable. I would have to agree with that. Um, moving on into the first match of the night, we got and I'm just going to show a clip of this because we this is all I can find. But the
Pretty Deadly and the Street Profits.
Pretty Deadly and the Street Profits, kind of renewing their little rivalry they've had over the past couple months. Honestly, I thought is probably the best showing that we've had or seen of this rivalry between them. I think that they are establishing really good chemistry as a foursome. I think that their selling, Pretty Deadly selling, is really good. I think that it is underrated. If nobody is paying attention to that, you should probably look at their selling for their opponents, and that's what you want. You want give and take for your opponents, for your tag team partner. You want give and take, and I felt like they did that. They did the job for the Street Profits. Both showing by both of these teams. I don't think that either team takes a step back from this match. I do think the MVP is the obvious MVP, which is Montez Ford. That frog splash that he hit, and he gets so high up that his bounce off of the body contact, he could land on his feet, truthfully. But he did like a little flip over, right? And he kind of like suspended in the air before he fell down, and then did a roll back over to the pin and got the W.
That was cool.
It was very cool. I think that B-Fab is she's feeling more comfortable as the makeshift manager for the Profits. She was on the outside doing what a babyface manager is supposed to do, and didn't look out of place, I thought. But overall, I always say, what is that first match following up the chaos that you had to keep me pulled in to keep watching SmackDown? And this was a good match. Your thoughts on this match following the action that we got pertaining to Money in the Bank?
Yeah, it's good filler.
Good filler. Listen, that good filler is, there's nothing wrong with good filler. Good filler is mac and cheese. Good filler is yams. Good filler is tater salad. Right? It's good. It's good for the mind. It's good for, well, it's probably not good for the mind.
I mean, I say good filler because like clearly Street Profits were gonna win the match. It's a match to push the Street Profits back up again. Pretty Deadly or classic heels. You know what I mean? Like I would have gone to taking a piss because and like I would have gone early to taking a piss and then to be back in time for the end of the match. Because I already know, but that's just me. You know what I mean? If I were 20 years younger, then I'd probably be like, oh yay, Street Profits. But at this point, like, and I'm sorry to say this, but they are starting to seem stale. I like them. Yeah, I like them, but they're starting to seem stale. Even with whether they have a strap or they don't have a strap, it's kind of like if R-Truth were just doing the "What's Up" song and not doing the rest of his hilarious shit, you know what I mean? That's pretty much what it would be. Like if R-Truth just came out every single time, "What's up? Stand up and say what's up," and like never did anything to say my bad, then that's kind of how it would be. Unfortunately that's how I see the Street Profits. You know what I mean? Now the good thing about them is that like they have these hilarious outtakes in the back and shit sometimes, but I would love to see them in the mix, like with Bianca Belair and something like that. Like personally, I think Bianca Belair should be B-Fab. I think she should be the one that's just out there supporting her man and then fighting for championships like Rhea Ripley did. You know what I mean? So that's the other thing. Like, I don't know. And BFAB, you know, it looks like she's just happy to be there. You know what I mean? She's the only one from Hit Row that's left. Straight up. Like, and she looks like she ain't trying to make no mistakes and just happen to be there, you know, and putting up the cups and all of that, and that's it. But who knows what's gonna happen with her? You know what I mean? But yeah, man. I mean, I'm sorry to say that because I love the Street Profits, but it's just starting to seem like a lot of the same for a long time. So
Montez as a high flyer he's very underrated.
He is, and
and
they got to pull the
I
trigger
think-
on him soon, man. Because
yeah, I think that's to go off of your sentiments and to echo what you were saying. I think that Profits are just in this weird spot where the fans are, it's enough already. Just get Montez his singles push. I think they're just at that point where they're over. If Lashley is not involved, they're over the Profits. And if Lashley
and
isn't
the
involved,
thing is, they don't even
got
need
to
to
do something. You got to.
They don't even
They don't
need
need
to
that.
split them up.
No.
They could Kofi Kingston Montez Ford. You know what I'm saying? They could straight up
They
Kofi
could.
Kingston Montez Ford and just have it. I mean, they can Big E Montez Ford. They never broke up the New Day. You know what I mean? And two of them already became champions. And Xavier Woods was the king of the ring, and they never broke them up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and you know, and his boy could be like, yeah, King Montez. You know what I mean? Like, come on now. You know what I'm saying? It'll work. They don't need to break them up. You know what I'm saying? That's shit. So, but at the same time, you know, because Shawn Michaels threw Marty Jannetty through a bathroom, a barbershop window, ever since then, everybody's always expecting a breakup. Feel me?
You know what? And that was my thing. Of Ashante Adonis is still there with Cedric Alexander. We did have a commercial on that. We'll play that a little bit later. Actually, we're at the minute mark, so let's go into that before we get into Bianca and Jay, because a lot of people want them to break up in the sense of not spreading your wings to break up, but somebody has to turn. Why do tag teams always have to turn? We'll talk about that and Jay Cargill and Bianca Belair versus Indy Hartwell and Candice LeRae right after these messages, or actually this message.
Welcome to the SmackDown Penitentiary.
Look at that. This shit is crazy. You just see the whole background, mind you. Look, now you see the New Day there, just chilling.
Where? I didn't.
What, that was the New Day? Who was that?
I think they're just regular black people. Is that New Day?
Wow. I could have sworn
That's
that was
is that
no, prior to not them. It was prior to
is
that.
Darren Young? I like Darren Young. Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, that's his, Ashante.
Oh
No,
shit! I really
that.
thought that was. Oh shit! I really thought that was New Day. That's crazy. Oh shit!
And then we get mad when other people say, "Oh, all black people look alike."
Yo, I'm saying though, look.
Go get a thank you for that that clarification
right,
you as well,
right
Chris.
there. You can mistake him for Xavier Woods real quick. You know what I mean? You know how fast
you could expect Ashante Adonis for JTG. Right? Look, he looks just like JTG in a freeze frame. Ladies and gentlemen, that what? God damn it! I got avocado on my shit. Oh, that was one of our clips from a show that we had. We usually have these. We usually have our, we have backstage conversations in our chats, and
that commercial was built off of a backstage conversation that all black people are not the same. But moving on into the show, we had Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Indy Hartwell, Candice LeRae. And I'm not going to lie, I know that Bianca and Jade are the marquee talent of the match. However, I was really impressed with Indy and Candice. We have been giving Indy and Candice so much shit. Well, not we. I'm saying we in the sense of unpopular review, but not we in the sense of the Z is solid. Because I love me some thick tongue Indy. Candice, nah. But she did give a different side to herself that made me say, okay, I understand why people who love NXT love Candice LeRae. Like I get it now. I didn't see it on her Raw run and most of the portion of SmackDown, but I get it now.
But she's like DIY. Her NXT booking was better.
Yeah, I would agree. However, there was a spot in this match, and I wish I could have found it. I'm gonna try to find it really quick. Where Bianca and Indy, two ladies that I think are pretty much same height wise. I think Indy might be a little bit taller than Jade, but they both have really long legs. And the match that they had, the spot that they had for the match, they really utilized showing off how Mike Knox of the Mike Knox Show says 6 feet. Yeah, I believe so. I think I was thinking the 6 foot 6'1" range. But they had a spot where they did a double boot to each other. And just looking at the way that, I can't find it on Twitter, but looking at the way that a double boot was performed and seeing, you literally got to see how, like, just literally how long their legs are, right? Because it was a full extension of both legs and they connected, and it was one of the cleanest double boot spots I've seen. And we don't get double boot spots from ladies a lot, even or at all. And if my memory serves me correct, anybody in the chat, you guys can, challenge me on that. I'm not saying that I'm right on it, but I do think that that's probably one of the only double boot spots that we've seen in wrestling, and it was perfection.
Oh, nice.
So
okay.
I think that they Candice and Indy definitely held their own this time against Bianca and Jade. Unfortunately for them, Bianca and Jade get the W. These women, Bianca and Jade, I cannot see them breaking up anytime soon. Honestly, I don't see it because of shit like this. The synergy that they have, that type of synergy that they have in performing their moves together, their ring gear looking the same, just in alternate colors. Like, Bianca has on pink and with yellow piping and yellow accents, where Jade has in yellow with pink and purple accents. Like, they are putting thought into what they want to be. And we're talking about tag teams, women's tag teams, right? So there's two deficits that you generally have in professional wrestling. One is women. Two is women's tag team. And you know what? We're throwing a third one in there. 3 is they're black women. And, I'm not the one to get, get on the whole Million Man March, give me a bean pie type talk. I'm black. I'm cool. I'm proud to be black. I don't need to scream into the world. However, these three sentiments of them being black women who are a tag team, who are synergizing and working together, cannot be ignored. They are doing something in the sense of, Mike, I don't know what that no issue is. It's okay to not want to be militant, I guess. We don't need to be militant as black people, but I'm sure you'll see it different. This is the reason why things happen the way they happen now, because people have that mind state. It's okay to solve problems in a different manner. I would say that we haven't had black champions as women. We haven't had black champions, tag champions as women. So it's okay for tag teams to just walk away from each other, take a break from each other. It's okay. You don't have to have somebody break away and turn on each other. And I think that they are leaning more towards that in that sense. And I think that that's their quote unquote creative input on it. To go back to what we spoke about earlier in the show, I think that if you're going to get Jade over, you continue to keep her with Bianca, and Bianca can show her how to be the constant professional in the ring. Jade knows what to do outside of the ring. Clearly, she looks like $1,000,000, body like a Greek god. She's it. She is He. She is her. But in the ring, she needs some help, and Bianca is the one for her. Your thoughts?
Well, see, here's the thing. I feel like
and Jade.
I feel like they put Bianca and Jade together because they got the same look. They're both chiseled. You know what I mean? And and they're both around the same age, and they both, because if it was a black thing, I would have put her with Naomi. Why? Because Naomi's a vet. Naomi can show the ropes, and Naomi is like.
If it's a black thing, it's Naomi and Bianca. Not even Jada's out of the picture.
No. Because the whole purpose of this is to help Jade get better. The whole purpose of that team is for Jade. It's not necessarily for Bianca. It's basically
Bianca hasn't done anything. Like you can't keep putting her in a world title picture, because then she'll get stale, and fans will turn on her, just like they have been Charlotte Flair, right?
But
like Charlotte.
That's why the girls need a mid-card title.
Exactly. And I thought that we were going to get it when we got the NXT. We got the NXT announcement of their new women's title, but we didn't.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think that's gonna happen right away, because remember, NXT is still FTW. Yeah,
but
FTW, you know what I mean?
NXT shouldn't have got it before the main roster.
No, but NXT got War Games before the main roster did. You feel what I'm saying? They're gonna try things out first in NXT before they do it anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I get that.
That's the thing. So, like, I don't think I don't think they're gonna break up. I think that they definitely have a good look. And people are and they'll probably get the straps again. But the other problem is just that, like, look, they always have an issue with creating an actual team, right? So one thing that I noticed is that they did this like little Wakanda Forever thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the thing, right?
Yeah.
They did this whole thing. So they're really trying to build this team together as a team. Like, and now. And their gear is different colors, but it's looking similar. They're working more in unison now. Like they did both of their moves, their simultaneous moves together, and then one half of them rolled out of the ring and let Jade do that fancy pin that she does, right? So I think that they are trying to just build them up specifically as a team, because they don't necessarily even have a name yet. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that they should do, because you can definitely see that, if anything, what Jade needs work on is her timing. That's it. That's basically what it is, in my opinion. Everything else is great. Like as far as like her delivery is great. It's just the timing is sometimes off. That's where she struggles.
Yeah.
So and over time she'll just get better at it. You know what I'm saying? But she's got the look. She can talk well. But unfortunately, I this might just be me being an old man, but as a fan, I can tell that she's nervous. You feel what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
just to change the subject to somebody else, when you look at Nia Jax, she's never nervous. You know what I mean? Even if she fucks up, she's still not, in character and ready to go. You understand? Jade Cargill needs help with that, and I don't think when she was in AEW, I don't think that she felt this amount of pressure, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's lax, it's chill, like it's like TNA. You know what I mean? It's perfect for Rob Van Dam type shit.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I get that.
Mhm.
So we get not going to go too much into backstage stuff. It wasn't nothing that was of significant matter. However, we got Chelsea Green talking to coming and interrupting Bailey. And you know what? We are going to get into this backstage segment because I need to acknowledge my boo. Ladies and gentlemen of the SmackDown Penitentiary, you know what it is. You know how. You know what? Hold on. Get out. Get it. That's what we want. There we go. There we go. There we go. You know how we do every single time that this lovely, luscious, fictitious woman is on our screens. I had the pleasure of watching SmackDown, and she was on my screen more than once.
I'm sorry to say, but Tony Storm's a better champion.
Who?
Tony Storm.
Oh well, Tony Storm has had a much longer run, so
Yeah, that's true.
that's expected. But she's not a better wrestler than Bailey. Now,
Oh, it's and like her run is like mid.
her Bailey's run, yeah, she hasn't had. It's very. I said it a few weeks ago. It's very Cody-esque ish. Their runs are very underwhelming. Same with Damian Priest, but you could argue that sentiment for anybody who has won a title at Mania. Tell me their next 3 matches and if they were, or their next 3 feuds, and tell me if they were great, right? Cody had AJ, fine, great match. A little underwhelming on the story. The story didn't hit. You could have had that, for a SummerSlam match, but I get they have bigger plans.
The story sucked, but the problem that they had was that crowd, because AJ Styles was not expected to pop that hard, bro. Like,
no, I don't think so at all. I don't think so. I have to
nobody was expected. Even Naomi was not expected to pop that hard, bro. Like,
yeah,
they didn't know what to do with that crowd. And now they're sitting here trying to recreate this in Toronto and getting people to battle. Nah, and nobody's fucking with France. I'm sorry. Yeah, nobody's fucking. I'm sorry, bro.
Nobody can. Yeah, I gotta agree with you, because that goofy shit that fucking Cody Rhodes said about Toronto. We just feel like a perfect fit. So you about to go to Compton, California, and tell them the same fucking shit. Don't play me like that. Don't play me like that. You want to say the same shit. Don't stop that. Don't do that. Shout out to the executive consultant, Chris Harris. We are currently having a debate battle, and who you think is the better debater, me or Chris? And the most recent topic was if the Briscoes are Hall of Famers in the tag teams of what we mentioned, great tag teams. He says no. I say absolutely.
And that's just it. We're going to organize a debate between me and the executive consultant very, very soon, or it's going to be a tag debate with the Shorts men, EC and Big Daddy Cool Steve versus me and Mr. Mike Knox. We're going to schedule that sometime soon. We don't know when, but until then, we're going to keep our content backstage. But we do have very entertaining conversations that we want to get you guys in on and have you guys make your vote on who you think is the better debater. But
if you're gonna
moving
that,
on,
you might as well beat the Young Bucks as well.
Exactly, like you throw the Young Bucks. If you're going to throw the Briscoes in there, you throw the Young Bucks in there. You can't talk about one without the other. However, we're talking about tag teams from the past, I don't know, 15 years. There's no way that you cannot put the Briscoes, the Young Bucks in there, the Gorillas of Destiny in there. Like, you can't put those guys. You cannot put those guys in there. The Good Brothers. You cannot put those guys. You can't have the conversation without putting those guys there, regardless if they've been in WWE or not. You just can't do it. It's not fair if you're saying that you're a pro wrestling fan. If you're saying you're a WWE fan, by all means, your criteria is 100% valid. But if you are a wrestling fan, you cannot sit there and say these men don't, they don't belong in the conversation. Jeffrey, abso-fucking-lutely. Lucha Brothers, absolutely. They should be in the conversation. If we're talking tag teams in the past 10 years, they are on my list.
But wait, whose Hall of Fame are we talking about?
I mean, I'm just in general. WWE is the only one that has a Hall of Fame, really. TNA just created theirs 3-4 years ago, so it's not really established, right? But if we're talking, if there was a general sense of a general Hall of Fame, just
there is Dolph Ziggler's a Hall of Fame.
There is, but it's not promotion wise, right? It's not promotion wise.
No, it's not. It's just
it's
like
the same one that Dave LaGreca got he's got inducted to earlier this year. He got inducted to, and shout out to him. Me and Mr. Mike Knox had the pleasure to interview him. That was one of my first I guess wrestling celebrities personas that I was able to be a part of. So shout out to him. He always acknowledges us when we tag him or speak to him on Twitter. But I would just like to say that there should be the general Hall of Fame that you were speaking about, that we were speaking about. I don't think that they include WWE stuff in their thing. I think it's everything but WWE. I think it's pro wrestling in its totality with extra stuff from Ring of Honor, GCW, or GCW ain't been that long, but New Japan. Did I say Ring of Honor already? TNA stuff is in there as well.
But there's even people that follow like PWG. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This is one of the reasons why so many people want Ricochet to go to AEW. You feel what I'm saying?
And I think it fits his style as well. You're right, as Sabrina Estella. Ring of Honor does have one. However, I don't know who all is in there outside of the Briscoes. If anybody could tell me that in the chat, I don't know who's in the Hall of Fame outside of the Briscoes. I want to say Jay Lethal, maybe.
Jay Lethal definitely. If he's not, he should be. He was the king of Ring of Honor.
Exactly, and if we were, I don't know if
here's the truth. We should be seeing more Black Machismo. Like, I'm here for that. Like, I was hoping that Jay Lethal would do more of that, but I don't understand that Jay Lethal is just like, being like number 2 to Jeff Jarrett. I don't get it. For how long are you gonna do that? You know what I mean?
I think it's one of those things where, like, even though you do something so well, you don't want to get stuck in that box, right? Like, you don't want to get stuck in a Black Machismo box.
Yeah. I get that.
You don't want to get stuck. You don't want to get stuck impersonating somebody else's career, right? And like, for a good portion of 3 or 4 years, Jay Lethal was stuck in this weird thing where he was mimicking Flair and Macho Man, but that's just of something that Nash, that was a Kevin Nash call, and he wanted to make good on some backstage stuff that Jay Lethal was doing. Same thing with why we see
No, but
Booker
Jay
T in
Lethal,
commentary.
Jay Lethal and Ric Flair in that promo.
It's I think that it's the greatest
a
TNA
meme.
segment of all time.
Well, I think it's the greatest meme on the internet. They used it to portray two dogs howling at each other.
The dogs, yeah. Woo, 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 woo. That it's literally. I definitely think that is in a top 5. That's in a top 5 of TNA promos ever.
Right.
You could throw Scott
Right.
Steiner math in there, but for me at the tippy top, it's probably Flair versus Jay Lethal.
Facts.
But getting off of that, you know what? Thank you, Sabrina. CM Punk, Samoa Joe, and Bryan Danielson are all in the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame. So Jay Lethal should be in that. The Briscoes are already in that. That would round out your top 5, and that would be a perfect top 5 Ring of Honor stars of all time. I don't think that there's any. I don't think there will be any kickback on that statement. I think it's pretty much a given thing. Like it's a given that Hulk Hogan is going to be one of the greatest wrestlers acknowledged when the world ends, right? That you can't erase what he's done. No matter if you agree with whatever he done in his past transgressions, it doesn't matter. What he was able to do for professional wrestling, it's universal. And I think that those people, those wrestlers for Ring of Honor are synonymous with Ring of Honor. You cannot mention Ring of Honor without those people. So that is synonymous. So I just want to put y'all on notice, to put EC on notice that his nobody knows the Briscoes take is null and fucking void. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Bailey, Pamela Martinez, because we got off of you, my lovely shaved head queen. Here at the SmackDown Penitentiary, we would just like to say that we love you and we appreciate you and all of your thickness. I saw you shooting hoops on Instagram. The thickness was thickening, and I liked it. I loved it. And the SmackDown Penitentiary just wants to tell you that we love you, Pamela Martinez. All right. Got that out the way. Now, finally, because she's been sitting on our screen for so long, waiting for that appreciation moment. Chelsea Green was looking fire.
Fact.
I don't know who gave her that suit, but she was looking phenomenal.
Well, she's definitely the Carmella of WWE today.
He is right now. After what she said to Bailey, I kind of think that she has a strong chance. She has a strong chance at winning Money in the Bank. Your thoughts? Do you?
I think so too. They might give her the hometown pop. You know what I mean?
I think so.
Because the thing is that if they give her the strap
briefcase,
she could definitely have a long run, because that's a character where the briefcase would work very, very well for. You know, she could definitely use it to talk a ton of shit, and then have it have like certain briefcases made to her own liking and type of things like that. Like you see how they sold the Senior in the Bank briefcase, a bunch of them for Damian Priest. Like, you know what I mean?
Now,
like
I want to ask you this while you're getting your point, because I want to keep you fresh on what you're saying and build off of it. Let's not forget, we do have Charlotte Flair waiting in the wings Does she go to Raw or does she go to SmackDown? If she goes to SmackDown, do you think she goes straight for the title? And does this affect somebody like Chelsea Green, who is thriving without, I don't want to say dictatorship over the women's division, but right now the women's division definitely seems like a toss up of anybody could get it. But if Charlotte keeps that strap, if Charlotte gets her hands on that strap, there's not many women that can get her on that SmackDown roster. I think Bayley, Naomi, and Nia is where the bucks stop. Where do you see Charlotte Flair if she gets included into SmackDown?
Fighting Nia Jax when Nia Jax has the championship, unless it's just a situation later on in the year where there's a battle for this title between Bayley and Charlotte, because they can definitely push that whole situation hard, like a big marquee match, because these are two women that are a big deal, right? But yeah, she's been out for a while, and I wouldn't be surprised if she doesn't come back till like Survivor Series time. But then
I think SummerSlam she comes back. I think her and Roman are coming back within a month of each other. That is my prediction.
All right. Well, I mean, if she were to come back for the summer, I don't necessarily think that, because like Charlotte Flair doesn't need a championship. You know what I mean?
She doesn't, but she hasn't ever thrived without one. We've never seen Charlotte Flair do anything out of championship.
That's the thing. You know what I mean? Like she's not her father in the sense where she can cut these great promos, right? She's her father where she's great at selling, and she's great at moonsaults, and she's great at doing stuff in the ring, right? That's where she's her father. So, as far as that part goes, she's a great heel, and, working as a heel, I think that she'll be great, just doing some stuff. But then when somebody like Charlotte Flair goes away and comes back, she's going to get a huge pop. She's going to have to do
massive pop. Massive.
So it's got to be some surprise. Like, look, personally, I wouldn't bring her back till the Rumble. In my opinion,
I think they saved that spot for Asuka.
You know what I mean? Probably. You know what I mean? But because the thing is,
Becky.
I don't even see, because Becky gets that Rumble spot. Becky's wrestling in GCW. Like Becky's
but she's not going anywhere else but WWE.
Who knows? Who knows that? I mean, you never know, because here's the truth. Look, if Sasha Banks wanted to come back, she could come back. If Adam Cole wants to come back, he can come back. These guys are smart because look, LA Knight is almost 40 or already in his 40s, right? Adam Cole is in early 30s. LA Knight.
Cole is 34. LA Knight is 41.
Look at that. You know what I mean? So the thing is, my point in saying that is just that, like, there's people that can float around and still have time. Becky Lynch has won everything. Everything. For Becky Lynch, if Becky Lynch can go even in NXT, she's won everything, right? So, and she has enough name recognition. She's selling books. She's doing things where, she has the ability to go and try other things. But my point in saying all of that is that the door is wide open, bro. And I'll give you another person that's perfect to mention here. Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan, I bet you he'll retire in AEW and then show up in WWE doing commentary with his wife. You know what I mean?
I can see that.
Because the door's open. I guarantee you Mark Henry's about to come back.
Oh, yeah, he's coming back for sure. He already let his contract. He let his contract run out. He's coming back. But
my point is that, like, now you don't have to stay so stuck to WWE. Like, you can really go float around and do other things. Nia Jax did it. She got kicked out, floated around, did a bunch of stuff. I think she even played with some OnlyFans stuff, and then coming back. They talking about bringing Mandy Rose back. You know what I mean?
Nia has a brand army where they don't necessarily do risque photos, but it's just more bathing suit type photos, which is still well within the means of what WWE allows. However, she wasn't out there showing her twat like Mandy Rose. That's the difference.
My point is just that, like, and I think Xavier Woods is probably one of the first people to do this, where the wrestlers are not, at least when it comes to generating incomes from outside sources, the wrestlers are not so confined as to what they used to be. Because, like, you even hear things like everything that Dijak was saying, at least what's going on in the rumor mill, that the way that they do business is illegal because you're really not an independent contractor, right? But for certain things, I think that you are. Because another thing that I find funny is how, like, there's some wrestlers that still have T-shirts on Pro Wrestling Tees that are in WWE. For a long time, and I don't know, I have to check this now, but for a long time, you were able to see old Ricochet shirts, old Johnny Gargano shirts from when they were in the indie scene, old Kevin Steen shirts that were Kevin Owens, you know what I mean? That were from the indie scene. So my point of saying that is just that, like, these are ways of them generating an income, and then as soon as you get to WWE, you have to cut all of these ties, right? But I don't think that it's like that anymore. I think that people have more, for lack of a better phrase, creative control for generating an income from outside, So when it comes to Becky Lynch, she has all of these things that she can be a part of. She can do, because the thing is, the other thing is just that WWE is a grind. Like, the one thing that I notice about Bayley now, she looks tired all the time. And I'm sorry to say that, but she does. She looks.
She needs. I think that she's not been able to have something that she can sink her teeth into. And
no, I don't think it's that.
When that happens, she hasn't had a form. She hasn't had a program with anybody that makes her think outside the box as far as character goes. We know what she can do in the ring, but character-wise, I don't think that she's had anything that makes her. I need to get. Let's do this. Let's do that. I don't think that she's had that yet. Piper, that's no disrespect to Piper. I think Piper was a good opponent for her. But I just don't think that Bayley wasn't Bayley's best work. And you're only as good as your last match. However, before we get into the main event of the night, which was A-Town Down Under versus DIY, we're going to take a quick break. And then we'll come back, talk about the main event, and talk about Solo Sikoa putting Roman Reigns on notice about the head of the table and being the tribal chief. Ladies and gentlemen, this is SmackDown Penitentiary. We will be right back.
Previously on the Mike Knox Show.
Will, so to speak, didn't quite land. It didn't stick the landing. So where does this go? With a faction like this, what are they? Who are they? They look completely like you need Jesus right now to stop them. And Jonathan Horatio Rodriguez, Tom Brady, Cena's not here. That's what storytelling is. You can go look up a novel. You can go look up any film. Even if a film is 2 hours and 45 minutes long, that don't mean it's not a great film. It just means a long-ass movie. And this is great. This is, again, the art of storytelling. We found out later that Paul Heyman was promised that nothing would ever happen to CM Punk, the tribal chief. Then we find out the tribal chief's not coming back. Paul's like, like this is bizarre. This is the best storyline in wrestling history. Okay, the NWO, pretty fucking awesome storyline. I cannot lie. The finger poker duel wasn't that bad in the first place. I said it. This is unpopular review. I said it to Dice Off Air. I'm saying it now, DJ. I say a lot of shit I just really mean, but something I just won't bring up. I never understood wrestling fans being mad at that.
Hold on here. Is it the barbershop? Is it the barbershop? Yes, it's the barbershop. Yeah, I mean, we can't talk straight in the barbershop Then where can we talk street? We can't talk street nowhere else. You know, this ain't nothing but healthy conversation.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was Mr. Mike Knox of the Mike Knox Show. You can catch him every single Monday, 6 p.m., but you will catch him tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, for the Money in the Bank review tomorrow morning.
Right
As
now,
we
I'm
get-
catching you backstage.
as we get into the final parts of SmackDown for the Go Home show, we have DIY versus A Town Down Under,
Alright.
and a lot of our colleagues on UPR are not a fan of this match, the outcome, in the sense of they just don't believe in DIY, or I don't know. However, I believe that this move for DIY getting drafted to SmackDown has been the best thing that has happened for them. Jeffrey, we're going to get into Cody, Randy, and KO. I kind of want to leave segments. I try to do segments at the end if they have nothing to pertain to a match. So we're going to get them and then the bloodline. But DIY versus A Town Down Under. What did you think about that match?
I thought it was great storytelling because you're pretty much breaking up A Town Down Under, and it's another place they're trying to capitalize on things that happened in the past with DIY. Because I mean, DIY is like one of the Triple H's best teams, and but then at the same time, they had a lot of NXT hype, but that was almost a decade ago. Which is the only reason why. Because look, if this
I don't think it's
happened,
that long. A decade ago was like Finn Balor ish. No,
Yo,
DIY was. I think it's
DIY
maybe like
a
6.
long time ago, bro. DIY
I think it's
as
like
a tag
6.
winning the tag team championships, bro. That's a long time ago. Even 6 years ago is a long time. This is something. It's
6
like another
years
Street
is
Profits.
a long time.
It's like another Street Profits. My point is just that they should have pulled the trigger on this a long time ago. So it's not gonna pop as much as it.
However, do you know how long Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins have been in WWE? Off the top of your head, take a guess.
In WWE in general?
Yeah.
Probably around 11 years, 12 years.
14 years.
Okay. I mean, but you're including FCW,
right?
And you're including FCW and NXT and all that?
I mean, yeah, that's still WWE, but 14 years, right? And it usually takes somebody who's been in professional wrestling at least 10 years to really hit their, I don't want to say their physical prime, because your physical prime is there. Your physical prime is in your 20s, your 23s through, I don't know, 31, 32. That's generally what the area is when we're talking contact sports, basketball, baseball, football. That's generally what your prime is, right?
20 to 30.
But for pro wrestling sense, you could hit your prime at 35.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what both Seth and Roman have done is hit. Everybody has had a prime, and I don't think that I'm misstating what I'm saying when I say this. Everybody has hit a certain prime where it doesn't matter what you do. Everything is just on fire.
Facts.
Everybody's done it. Austin, Rock, Orton, Triple H, Batista, Brock, Booker T, hell, even Goldberg to a lesser degree, right?
But also, AJ Styles beat up John Cena. Cena, Edge. Like, there's a certain point of time when you hit that prime in your mid 30s that it's just undeniable. There is a different echo of sentiment when I'm saying that statement. The exception off the top of my head, only because I've watched so many documentaries on it and WCW. The one exception that I can say off the top of my head was DDP. DDP didn't get into pro wrestling until he was like 30. I think he said he was like 31, 32.
Mm-hmm.
And then he really didn't hit his prime until he was like 36, 37. Like, that's the back half. That's the back half of most people's careers, right? That's the back half of most people's pro wrestling careers back in that sense, right? Today, in today's sense, if you're about to hit 40, you're still running on good. There's some more tread on that tire, right? Because we're seeing guys like Bobby Lashley and Orton and Cena and Edge and Roman is 38, I believe. Seth is 37 coming up on. You're getting these guys that are approaching 40 and are still rolling. Whereas back then in WCW days, when you're hitting 40, it's not really your prime, but you're kind of like your prime, right? Like, it's a weird juggle of time strain.
I mean, but being 40 in the 90s is not like being 40 now.
You are right. Listen, motherfuckers that was 20 years old in the 80s, in the early 90s, they do 20-year-olds now do not look like 25, 26, 27-year-olds today. They do not. 25 to 27 back then had full mustaches. They're like grown-ass men. 25 to 27 today still look like they're 21.
They didn't have Rogaine. They didn't have Just for Men like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, it wasn't as popping as it is now. You know what I mean? People weren't injecting stem cells. You feel me? Like, people were balding at 21. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it was. And we didn't have all of these things to make it. And people didn't take selfies like this. You know what I mean? To hide everything. So yeah, you know, the internet can be deceiving because, you feel me?
Sabrina Estella, I will say that they did take away Charlotte's NXT Women's Champion reign in the bookings. I mean, not in the bookings, but in the acknowledgement of records. I did notice that in the past year. They did take that away, whereas they did acknowledge it previously, but they would not acknowledge it as a world championship. In other years, they did.
They do now.
So you are absolutely right. EC, yeah, okay, Edge is in his 50s, breaking that's what happens. Things happen, shit happens. What is the critique here? Have you jumped off of a cage? Have you taken a bump in one of these rings that you go and announce in? Have you? Because I feel like you have not. And I feel like you have no right, no complacent decency to even be saying that somebody is trash or has not gotten the grasp of concept to even be creative or be a wrestler. But however, you the consultant on this. You the consultant on this. This what we doing? This what we doing? Huh? I know Mr. Mike Knox taking a bump. I'm taking a bump. Vic, have you taken a bump?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vic's taking a bump. Chris, you wrestle? I bet anybody that ever seen Chris Harris wrestle, somebody pull me some Chris Harris tapes and tell me if this motherfucker ain't trash. And he gonna tell me that somebody been doing it for 20 years is trash. But yet, a champion, a world-renowned champion in Triple H and Shawn Michaels, call DIY up and tell them that they're going to get this strap. They got it. He's wrong and Chris is right. I'm going to believe the executive contradiction over the 14-time world champion Triple H? That's what we're doing right now? That's what we're going to do right now? No, that's why. This is why his take on the Briscoes sucks donkey dick. He ain't been through the grind. He don't know what it takes. Back to this main event. Nobody wants to follow your social media, Chris, because you're executive contradiction. Like, what do you mean? Why would we follow you? Make it a commercial. Jeffrey, this is what we're saying. Make it a commercial. Make it a commercial. Let's see Chris wrestle, and we can all give him negative 10-star matches. What was it? What was your finisher? I guarantee. We want to talk. Hey, Mike Knox. Hey, we want to talk about the finger poke of doom. I guarantee that was Chris Harris's finishing move, finger poke of doom, because we never want to see it again. Listen, WWE with this 4K camera. Every time they do the 4K camera, it is a big deal. It is a beautiful shot. I cannot. Oh, now you want to give me something that I can literally. I mean, who doesn't know? Who does not know Briscoes over DIY? Who doesn't know this? The Briscoes have been tagging for 20 years. They were tagging as teenagers all around Delaware, fighting grown-ass men. Who doesn't know DIY isn't better than the Briscoes? Who doesn't know that? That's a come on. But anyway, DIY, this 4K. What do you think about the 4K cam? Because I love the 4K cam, and it makes me miss football season so much. It makes me miss football so much. And you know what? Shout out to Mike Rome for attempting to sit there and say Samantha Irvin's Chelsea Green entrance. He tried.
Oh, he really did
tried.
like that. I thought that was interesting. They really going hard with her entrance.
He tried it.
Which is the reason why she might win tomorrow. Another reason why
you know what? That is crazy. That is crazy. Maybe. Mike, I contradicted myself. I'm not the executive contradiction. That's you. Yes, please send me this so I can make it in a commercial and critique him. I want to flame the draws off of him. Pause. That's probably the reason why he's not a wrestler now.
Hey, yo. Yo, that was wild.
I will say that Mike I will say that Mike Rome is definitely better than Alicia Taylor.
Right, he is.
He did try. He did try. Play the draws off of it. Crazy work.
Crazy.
That's
gonna be a clip.
It's definitely a clip. Thank you. We at the 1 hour and 48 minute mark. That's gonna be the first commercial out of 3. I will say this. For those like Mike Knox and executive consultant, for those in the chat, when we are trolling each other, it is not in the sense of we're not putting down each other. This is simply friendly competition. I love those brothers. I respect their thoughts, their opinions on wrestling. One of the reasons why I enjoy doing what I do. They do not like DIY at all. I would simply like to say I didn't like DIY on Raw. DIY on SmackDown, while it hasn't been very different, it's something about that SmackDown crowd that is making them seem like they matter in the WWE tag team division. It for whatever reason it does, and I don't know. Maybe it's a brand split thing, right? Like some people on SmackDown wouldn't get the same reactions that they did on Raw back when the draft split was taken very seriously. They wouldn't get that. And that's the only sentiment that I could kind of echo to that. But I don't know. I don't know why people. I don't know why, in the sense of A-Town Down Under, good wrestlers, right? But Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa are great wrestlers, great in-ring technicians, and however, people like Chris and Mike do not like them. I don't get it. That's fine. They're not, but I thought that the DIY DX shit that they were doing with Miz and R-Truth it peeled an onion back on their personalities.
I mean, no, to be honest with you,
Sabrina, you absolutely. Me and Vic will reserve a space for you in the penitentiary. Like, you are everybody on UPR, fans as well. If you want to come on and you want to give your 2 cents, you are welcome to come on in penitentiary. This is a safe space. This is a ratchet space, but we are well controlled. But I again to not to cut you off, Vic, and I apologize. I agree. The DIY DX stuff with Miz and R-Truth was good. It peeled back an onion of their character and their personality. They're fine. I thought it was great, and I thought that peeling back that sentiment of their personalities helped them going into the draft, because after the draft they were over when they got announced to get drafted by SmackDown. They were cheered heavily and have been cheered heavily every single match they've had on SmackDown.
They have a fan base. Don't get me wrong. They have a fan base.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just that they're not like popping every crowd. They're never going to get to like LA Knight. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's, and I think that's one of the things that they're talking about. Because their ring work is good, and their gimmick is old. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I say, like, they have a fan base, just like Johnny Gargano's wife has a fan base. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's people, especially like if it's somebody from Cleveland. You know, I remember how much people in Cleveland popped like for Johnny Gargano. Like, he's known as Johnny Wrestling. Like, there's a lot of people that like him. You know what I mean? But he's never gonna get a huge pop unless he's in a hometown. It's kind of like, it's also like, for example, like Andrade is not gonna get a huge pop unless he's somewhere in Southern California. You feel what I'm saying?
But he used to get huge pops, but I think that was more credit to Selena Vega, possibly.
Maybe.
But getting into the match, I thought the match was well constructed. I thought it was well performed by all 4 men in that ring. But the thing that made me realize that it was DIY's time. Let's be clear. For people like EC and Mr. 3X's, you're not going to tell me that A-Town Down Under's run was credible, one, or it gave any sense of them being the best tag team in the world. I got no sense of them being the best tag. I forgot I knew that R-Truth and Miz were tag team champions more than I did A-Town Down Under.
Mm-hmm.
So let's not act like A-Town Down Under were doing some crazy astronomical shit. They were not. The plug had to be pulled on them, and clearly Grayson Waller is not the bigger star than Austin Theory. Austin Theory is the bigger star between him and Grayson Waller. Grayson can talk, yes, but he doesn't have the look like Austin. He does not have the prototypical body sculpture that WWE or they tend to look for when they're going to crown somebody as a champion that can go around and in this new merger of what's the company? Endeavor. Austin Theory can go out in a 3-piece suit and look like $1,000,000 with a belt over his shoulder. Grayson Waller.
I mean, yeah, but it's like Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre. You know what I mean? It's like that heel pairing, where Dolph Ziggler
you know
did
what? You know what? That heel pairing was so fucking underrated. I loved psychopathic Drew McIntyre. He was goated with that. I loved it. When him and Dolph would go and interfere in people's matches, and he wouldn't even take his coat off, and he would hit people with the Claymore, and then he just look down and then do the head flip with the wet hair, and he's looking down at that was an iconic shot. But
I mean, no. My point is just that Austin Theory's the stronger guy, and Grayson Waller's the mouthpiece. Not because Austin Theory doesn't know how to talk, but look, Grayson Waller, he's already got his own show. He's had his own show since when he was in NXT. The guy's a mouthpiece. He knows how to talk. You know what I mean? Like as kind of like anybody that's a big, strong guy being put together with the Miz. Eventually the Miz is gonna be. Well, look, it's probably gonna be the same booking like Miz and Logan Paul. Where the Miz turns on him and the Miz was all like squirrely. You know what I mean? I clearly see that happening with Grayson Waller, and then him just continuing to do his squirrely life. The only problem I see with that is that I don't know how they'll ever make Grayson Waller a babyface. You know what I mean?
I don't think you ever can. I think some wrestlers, they probably are just going to be, that for their career. Orton, some people just make that like Hogan is just as well known as Hulkamania Hogan, just as much as he's known as Hollywood Hogan. Right? Like those it's not in a sense like both monikers of his career changed professional wrestling. Both of them. It is very rare that anybody has 2-3 monikers of themselves that change professional wrestling 2 times over. Like say your prayers, you know what I'm saying? Say your prayers, eat your vitamins, all that shit, and then we your NWO for life, brother. Like, and he made that shit cool to be bad. It's not, Hall and Nash, yes, they were down listening to rap shit, all that. They bought that kind of cool aspect to it, but all the eyes were still all on Hogan. All the eyes were still on Hogan. He was still professional wrestling savior. That's why I'm saying, like, in 2 different aspects, you are still getting Hulkamania shirts selling, and you're still getting NWO shirts selling, and not even if you don't even want to include the NWO shirts, you still have the Hollywood Rule shirt, which is one of the most iconic shirts for a superstar ever. Like,
I mean, but they're still selling Mega Powers. They're still selling the Mega Power shirts, and they're still selling Hulkamania.
I will tell you. You tell me the last time you seen a show where somebody had a Mega Power shirt on. Because I have not.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but yeah, I have seen it. You know what I mean? I definitely have seen it. But the point in doing that is just catering to the older people.
Yeah, that's true, but it's still younger people that didn't even know technically about Hogan, but knew of what he did. But that's neither here nor there. Before we get up out of here, let's get into what we really, really, really want to talk about. What we are all here for.
Wait a minute, we missed Kevin Owens thing.
Oh, I did say that we were going to talk about this. Matter of fact, let me back up. I did say that. I am sorry. My apologies, Jeffrey, because that was supposed to segue right into the conversation of the bloodline. So, Kevin, we get Kevin Owens out first.
Orton out next, and then Cody Rhodes. First of all, look at this crowd.
Mm-hmm.
That crowd looks crazy. I think they said, if I'm wrong, correct me in the chat. I think it was about 16,000 in that crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing,
The
amazing
whole
view. I don't know. Did they say that it was sold out?
At least close to, because most of these arenas don't pass 20,000 people. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Like MSG, they had 19,000 the other day. You know what I mean? But that's light work for New York. So like, but
crazy, yeah, crazy light work. The fact
But
he's
like-
out 19,000, it's not enough. It's crazy work.
yeah, like, you know what I mean? So like, a lot of these places, like, you see a big crowd, but it's 20,000 people a lot of the time. So they might have just sold it out. And mind you, here's the thing: that crowd in France was only about like 12,000 people. It's just that I think it's the whole thing is just the logistics behind it. The arena was small, and the crowd was all neckbeards. You know what I mean? And so like you had some hardcore wrestling fans in there, and it was just wild. Hold up, did I get kicked out? Because you're not moving.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
My head was down.
Okay. All right, back. No, but like that whole crowd, I think it's hard to recreate because you have the passion, you have the small venue, and then you have this crazy like soccer crowd that knows all of these chants in unison. Like that's very hard. I think that's very, very difficult to recreate in the United States. First of all. So they're definitely trying that all over the world. And the thing about Toronto is that Toronto is a very similar crowd to a US crowd.
Mm-hmm.
These are not people that never get this stuff. Toronto's had a WrestleMania. Toronto's, you know what I mean? Trish Stratus, all of that. So it's not. I think that.
Money in the Bank.
Yeah, like, but what I'm saying is, it's just like every other American crowd. You know what I'm saying? It's not. This is not special. But anyway, speaking about Kevin Owens, unfortunately, he had to shoot last night.
Yep, from the hip. One of the best segments I've heard from him.
I mean, I respect him for doing this because he said from the beginning, like, he wouldn't have had a problem not being there from anybody in the back or any of those people. But his mother would have been pissed off because unfortunately she's in the hospital. I mean, I don't think he went into many details as to why, but she's in the hospital and she's not doing well. So, but then he just pretty much used this whole thing in order to create a great promo to make the match feel more important. And one of the reasons why I think Kevin Owens is one of the greatest is because, number one, look at him. He's never had like this chiseled look like most wrestling people are, and he personifies like the wrestling fan. Comes out in a t-shirt and always has a t-shirt, and like his t-shirt looks like a wrestling fan taping up posters from a magazine. You know what I mean? Like he stays in that persona, and that's one of the things that I've always loved about him. But just continuing with him being real all the time, that's exactly what he did, and I respect the hell out of him for that because he straight up came out, was honest with everybody, let them know what the hell's going on with him, but then still turned it into a promo and made everybody not necessarily feel bad for him, but made them excited to see him kick some ass tomorrow.
I gotta agree with that because there's been no person on the roster who has seen more of the bloodline than Kevin Owens.
Facts.
Except Sami Zayn. I think Sami Zayn would be the only one, but Sami was more of an ally, and then he became part of it before he became an enemy of the bloodline. But Kevin Owens has always been for 4 years. Kevin Owens has been a uh, a opponent of the bloodline. So
Mhm.
I think from that aspect of realism that he sprinkled in with his mom, in addition to, yeah, he's been battling the bloodline for 4 years. No matter what version of it was, he still has been battling the bloodline. That's what made it enjoyable for me. I didn't
Mhm.
even need Cody doing the intro speech that he talked about. Like I didn't need. So, what do you want to talk about? It didn't matter. It didn't matter. I
Mhm.
get it. You did it. You did it because it's Toronto and you needed Cody Rhodes to come out there and Orton to come out there. I didn't even need none of those. If you just gave me Kevin Owens come out there for his team and said what he said, it still would have been a really good segment in my opinion. But again, I do get it. These guys are they're going to be at Money in the Bank. You got to sell Money in the Bank. Why not have the three that are going to be in what I guess is going to be the main event of the night? Why not have them on the show? I thought the
Mhm.
genius part of I thought the genius part of SmackDown, and we're talking about um people being on the show, was the fact that you did not have the bloodline actually in the building for SmackDown. I
Yeah, I
thought
found
that
that
it
in.
was beautiful because everybody who loves pro wrestling and is talking pro wrestling is talking about one of two things. You're either talking about Britt Baker's return, or you're talking about Paul Heyman getting power bombed through the table, and when is Roman Reigns coming back? That is the two things that you're. And if you're at both of these companies, AEW, WWE, you are right where you need to be. You are right where you want to be, because these are your bigger story. These are your biggest and best storylines that you have to put your company's foot forward. Um,
I want to
ever
thank
since,
Paul for that
yeah,
actually,
yeah,
because
absolutely
clearly
taking
he did
that
that.
bump.
He did that for a hometown crowd.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank
He is
him for
he is
that.
a New York guy. Yep, he is a New York guy. I forgot all about that. Yep.
He did that. He did that for the Bronx. So I can appreciate that as a New Yorker. You know what I mean? I thought that was interesting, but like, I was comparing him to other things before, because you could say that Paul Heyman is one of the greatest wrestlers of all time. If we're talking about the craft of telling a story and the acting that he does in the ring, this guy deserves an Oscar for this. And then taking the bump, and then clearly seeing that they were kind of messing up on holding him up. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, he doesn't do this every day. So, and then personally, I think the mistake that they did was putting him, having Jacob carry him. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because him and Jacob probably didn't work together before. Because I think that Jacob just dropped him kind of early. You know what I mean? I
Right.
think the bump that he took, wasn't supposed to be the bump that he was supposed to take. Because he landed, it looked like he landed kind of hard. Because you notice when he did the head bump, he didn't even touch him. You peeped that, right?
No,
When he did
I
that,
thought I thought
when
he
he,
got I thought he got up in the
no,
like up
he
in this
barely
area.
touched it. No, he barely
Oh
touched it.
wow.
And but Paul Heyman sold it like beautifully though. You know what I mean? But then when he went through the table, that bump looked like that shit was, you know what I mean? Like that shit hurt. I mean, regardless, you being put through a table is gonna hurt regardless. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it just looked like he landed a little harder than he was supposed to. But anyway, like the main point here is just that now there's no strap that they're fighting for. This is something I was talking about for a long time. These beads right
Mm-hmm.
here, this is a
The
new
Impala.
champion. Yes, this is a
Yep.
new champion, right? So
That's the
because there's so
champion
many
of
people in
Samoans. That's what that is.
exactly. So because there's so many people in the bloodline, I got a feeling that this is going to be a very big part of WWE, and you're gonna see a whole bunch of replicas of these, and it's literally going to be like a championship, like the tribal chiefdom is going to be something to fight over. You know what I mean?
I don't. You know what?
I think this is
I
the
don't
direction they were
know.
going to go.
I don't know if
So what?
I don't know if WWE would make a replica of something that pertains to somebody's heritage. I do know that Mike Knox did purchase a Ulu Fala somewhere.
Mm,
I'm not
mm.
disclosing the website,
I mean, but then
but
the thing is, but here's the thing
I
though.
don't
If you
think
were to
WWE
go,
would do it at the expense of trying to get a monetary gain. Like this is something that is very prideful to them. And I think when you cross the line of being of crossing a family's heritage to make money, I think it's just a bad. I just think it's bad business. Period. So I don't think
mm,
WWE would do that in that sense. They might do the Leia. Yeah, they might do the Leia because those are more those are more I guess universal, whereas a Ulu Fala is not universal. That is very, very near and dear to that culture's heart. Where Ulu Fala can be hell, people do them. They throw them shits in Mardi Gras sometimes. You fucking never know. Somebody flash their titties, they'll get a layer.
well, I mean, but the point is just that like the Ulafala is basically something for them to fight over. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's something that because I said a long time ago, like Roman doesn't need a strap anymore. And the great thing about the Ulafala is that it's something to be acknowledged over. One of the greatest things that they're doing right now is, especially Solo, is telling everybody to acknowledge him. I think that's genius, especially because that's pretty much the way that Roman started, right? Acknowledge me, acknowledge me, acknowledge me.
Yeah.
And he keeps talking about being acknowledged, right? So now in this little interview or little video package, the main thing that he said is that like he lost our championship. So now we're gonna go back after our championship. But once Solo loses to Cody, the main strap here that he's gonna have is the Ulafala. So if Roman and Solo end up fighting, it's probably gonna be over that, and then it'll just be the tribal chief, and that's that, right?
Mhm.
But it all really depends on where that story goes, because The Rock could be involved in that.
That
somehow.
is the wild card in this whole storyline, and this is the reason why I
Nobody's
said,
making
and I
the
will
hype.
continue to say, that the bloodline and the story of the head of the table is the greatest storyline in professional wrestling history. No storyline has given us so many twists and turns and interest and intrigue as this has, as well as different implications, different characters, different storylines within the storylines, right?
Mhm.
Like long-term storytelling. Like no storyline has ever given us so many layers to do what we do, and that's discuss it in a in-depth conversation. You could probably say NWO. I know Mike Knox does put NWO up there, and I am of that ilk as well. I echo those same sentiments. But knowing what we know and how it unfolded and how it was so ran like a very tyrant type of way, not tyrant as a single person, but tyrant as a group, it's not that great. And looking back at it, watching back at it, as I have been for the past month and a half, 2 months, NWO storyline wasn't really a storyline. It was
No,
made
of
for
course not.
one person in WCW to get over, and that was Sting. Nobody else benefited on the WCW side. Anybody can challenge me on this in the chat. Nobody on the WCW side gained from NWO except for Sting. But everybody that was a part of the NWO or joined the NWO benefited from being in the NWO. That's DDP. His story wasn't that deep. It wasn't that deep for the NWO to care that much. Macho Man, he ended up turning. Giant, he ended up turning. He turned early and then turned away. who else we want to throw in? Sid Vicious. You could throw. No, it doesn't even. Sid Vicious, Warrior. It doesn't matter who you throw in there. You could throw Flair and the Horseman in there. It didn't
You know
matter.
what?
They did not. They did not.
know-
They didn't benefit from the NWO. Sting is the only
Dennis-
person that benefited from the NWO. Not even Lex
Dennis-
Luger did.
Dennis Rodman.
It didn't make Luger a bigger star. The only person that
Dennis
NWO
Rodman.
made a bigger star that
Dennis
was from
Rodman.
WCW was Sting.
Nah, Dennis Rodman, bro.
Dennis
Dennis Rodman, bro. He capitalized on that shit. He's NWO for life. Hey, what?
Listen, Mike. I said I think that in a lesser sense, DDP, yes. I was having this conversation with our guy Pat from Xbox. I was saying that DDP was Stone Cold before Stone Cold because Stone Cold was a man of the people, but it just so happened that Stone Cold more people they got with what Stone Cold stood for as a sense of a blue collar guy that's tired of your boss at work. They connected with Stone Cold in that sense. DDP, he was just a hardworking guy that didn't crack into the business until 35, 36 is when he really got his comeuppance in pro wrestling.
Like DDP was like a skinny Dusty Rhodes.
I would agree with that. But yeah, I still say that DDP maybe he's probably the second behind Sting. I would say he's the second behind Sting that benefited from the NWO, but not that much because his story with the NWO was over with pretty quick. It was Hall and Nash and Bischoff trying to get him into the NWO. He said no. Hall's my best friend. Eric's my next door neighbor. I'm cool with Big Kev, and he still did not join them, and that was it. Where still Sting is.
Wait a minute, you're forgetting about Goldberg
to play with their heads.
But wait, you're forgetting about Goldberg.
He didn't benefit because he wasn't at war with the NWO. He wasn't a part of the war, is what I'm saying. When it was when NWO was trying to make NWO Nitro and NWO Sold Out and all that, they was literally trying to make their own shows, and it was Macho Man, Luger, Giant, Full Horseman, Sting, all of those in DDP, all against the NWO separately, not together. He wasn't in that conversation. He was still doing his separate thing. He was doing his own thing. Like he wasn't even on the radar of the NWO until he had ran through every fucking body there was. He ran through everybody. But getting off of that, because I could talk on, and I'm ready to get the hell up out of here because this is wearing way too long on a show that I thought was going to be super short because of a go home show. The Ulufala, it was something extremely sacred. Jeffrey, you are absolutely right. Extremely sacred. We're talking about Samoan, Hawaiian, however you want to pronounce these people.
But
Tongan is in a lesser degree, but they still in that same umbrella. It's sacred to all of them. And like you said, Vic, this is their championship. And this is why this is one of the greatest storyline, because you don't even need a championship. Like at the first round of Bloodline was circled around greatness and championships. At this point, it is not. It is around family. It is about, listen, the one thing for sure, two things for certain. If you watch a Fast and Furious movie, the one message you better get from a Fast and Furious movie is family. Salute mi familia. Everyone, it's not the cars, it's not the going in space, it's not the explosions, it's salute mi familia. That's what you get that's what you're supposed to get. That's what you're supposed to get if you can comprehend. But the Ulufala is their homage to family. It's their salute mi familia. It's their glory.
and he tells us that Roman, he wasn't man enough to defend the legacy of the family at WrestleMania. Them is fighting words. Them
That's right.
is fighting words. You don't tell no man that he wasn't man enough. You don't tell no man that he wasn't man enough. You don't, that's one thing you don't do. We talking about family. You don't tell a man that he can't provide for his family and he's not the head of his family. He does not control his family like the head of a family. Like you don't tell a man that. So the wording of the segment with Solo, I thought was very diabolical work. It was very cerebral, and it's one of those promos where you're going to have to go back to and you're going to have to pause stop because of what he's saying. Sometimes it's not just somebody talking that gets the point across. It's the wording, it's the verbiage that they're using is what they're going for, and I believe that that's what they were going for in this promo was the verbiage. And this shot here, I chose this shot for our graphic because it is very reminiscent of Roman's and the Usos with Paul Heyman's shot where they're sitting around the table with the money and the titles on the line.
Facts.
Whereas Solo's shot is just him and his family, him and his bloodline, and the Ulu Fala is the main focus. Whereas Roman's focus was the Ulu Fala, money, championships, because that's all his family has been about. I thought that this shot was perfect. Your thoughts on the rest of this segment? And closing out, going into Money in the Bank, what do you see happening for the Bloodline versus the SmackDown Avengers?
Well, I mean, clearly there's going to be some shenanigans, but I got a feeling this whole thing is to set up a championship match, either between somebody on Cody's team or between Solo and Cody. And like this might just be the lead to SummerSlam for Solo and Cody. And then, or maybe Roman might just show up. You know what I mean? Roman might just show up, screw the match up for them, and then start something. I think it's too soon, but it might not be. Why? Because the Ula Fala is what his father put on Roman. The head, the Wild Samoans came out and they put the Ula Fala on Roman, making him the tribal chief, right? But there was a time where Rock and Roman were going to fight over this because there can only be one tribal chief, right? So now here's the other thing. The Rock is in real life a high chief of a group on the island.
Yeah,
right?
and they don't even acknowledge that.
The thing is that I don't know. His grandfather was High Chief Peter Maivia. And that was like his name and everything, but he was also a high chief. So now I don't know if they're going to bring the high chief stature into the storyline or if they're just going to keep the whole tribal chief situation, right? So clearly the Rock is going to be involved somehow. Just God knows when. You know what I mean? So like, so the great thing about this is just, and like I've always been saying, like they have such a compelling story. They're doing such compelling storytelling that they don't necessarily need titles, which is a great direction. Which is a great direction because it's also this is not the only space where they have this magic. They also have it with Chad Gable and the Wyatt Six, right? Nobody knows what's going to happen there, but everybody wants to see what's coming next, right? That's why we already know that even though Chad Gable should win the Money in the Bank contract, he's not going to because of something that's going on with the Wyatt Six. This right here, this bloodline situation One thing that I would love to see as far as the future is women get involved. I would love to see
The
Nia
one
Jax.
thing that I think that's the one thing that they're missing on. I think that
I
if they
would
can get those
love to see
Harlequins,
Nia Jax get involved. I mean,
yeah,
maybe them. You know what I mean? But I would love personally. I think it's the perfect time. She's Queen Naya. She can, do a bunch of stuff, say a bunch of things. And the thing is just like Nia Jax is not afraid to get in the ring with men.
no,
So, and one of the greatest Royal Rumbles was when she showed up and like, hey, got into the men's Royal Rumble. Like
yeah, she took
that's
that RKO.
it's- yeah, bro. So, and the thing about Nia Jax is that Nia Jax has got 10 times better mic skills than Solo Sikoa ever can. If Nia Jax were to become the tribal queen or something like that, oh man, and she was just like the leader of all these guys, man, that would be crazy. But then she couldn't fight Roman, you know what I mean? But still, like, if they were to involve her in some way, I think it would be great. And I think they already have like the seeds for it because
Mhm.
she certainly at the Hall of Fame, she definitely acknowledged her tribal chief. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that she was on Jimmy instead of Jay's side when it was Yeet versus no Yeet. You know what I mean? I think she was a high no Yeet proponent. So, she could definitely be put in the mix. I would love, love, love to see that. But you never know. But that's the great thing about this whole thing, that you really don't know what direction is going to go. But whatever direction they do go, it's certainly going to be entertaining.
You know what? I gotta agree with that because I don't any direction you guys take me, I am fine. This has been one of the things that I'm not trying to predict,
Pick.
and if I do predict it, it doesn't matter if I was wrong or not. It's one of these things where I'm just happy that it's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
All really good night for SmackDown. All y'all, I want to make sure you guys stay tuned, stay close by, get you a snack, get you some food, and stay close to your computer, your phones, whatever you're watching us on. And we will be back with the uh, Money in the Bank predictions.
Yep.
I think about 4:30 ish.
Yep.
So make sure you guys stick along for that. Not to mention, we have a little bit of something for everybody. You can catch the Mike Knott Show at 6 p.m. And then you have the Monday Night Raw watch along on Tuesdays at 7, followed by NXT right after NXT. And then we got AEW White Boy Wasted Wednesdays with Cactus Katie and Mad Dog Kelly. And then you can catch Top 5 and Specials hosted by myself. And then you can catch us every single Saturday here at the SmackDown Penitentiary. Now, before we get off out of here, I just want to say, as always, thank all of you guys. You guys are freaking amazing. I know that we tend to go longer than normal shows, and that's because it's you guys. You guys keep the conversation going, and then me and Vic keep the conversation going. So the combination is nothing but a bunch of love, and it's the mega
Yep.
powers exploding. But we would not be able to do this. We thank you guys. We actually, I know I talk a lot of shit, but we are really, really one of the fastest rising shows on UPR ever since January when me and Vic hooked up to do this thing. We have had steady growing numbers. We hit our highest numbers last week on YouTube because of you guys. I
Facts.
just want to say thank you guys. Keep pushing us because we will keep putting out entertaining content for you guys. So for Vic, for me, the Z is silent. We will end it out like this. I will leave you guys with a short from the UPR Angry Muppets crew. That is Big Daddy Cool Steve and the executive consultant doing what they do and having entertaining debates. We will catch you guys next Saturday. Make sure you guys tune in to Money in the Bank preview later on at 4:30. Appreciate you guys. Everybody stay safe, stay cool. It is hot out here.
Facts.
Peace.
This one I don't agree. Nexus. Name me top 3 guys in Nexus that became somebody.
Actually, just had this conversation with somebody. Wade Barrett. Somebody
Okay.
says David Otunga, and I think David Otunga is your number 2.
David Otunga, his wife didn't even want to stay with him. Come on now.
His wife made up a lie that he abused them because she wanted to get away from him, but it was a lie. She lost
This man- Exactly. How David Otunga is the second best member of Nexus?
because who else they have?
That's my point exactly. They got nobody.
I don't disagree with you. Nexus was not good. Nexus had one good night, and that was it.
They shouldn't be on this list. You know who should take over the Nexus spot?
And technically, somebody's mentioned to me Daniel Bryan.
The Nexus should be crossed off this list. They need to add the Bloodline. The Bloodline has done.
I agree.
so-
The Bloodline
so
should be
much.
up there. The Bloodline's over in that New Day to me. I would dare say controversially, Bloodline's over Shield.
I would totally agree with that because Shield is trash.
Usted anda en la calle con